Hi guys, I'm back with a video today, a little bit different than the stuff that I normally post. I'm doing a commentary on Mark Zuckerberg on Joe Rogan's podcast. I thought that it was really interesting, and I've seen like a lot of people on TikTok like post about Mark Zuckerberg and like basically just making fun of him and like posting about his comment on women and well less about women but his comment on like the corporate workplace and how like it's lacking masculinity.
To say we want to be kind of like welcoming and make a good environment for everyone. And I think it's another to basically say that masculinity is bad. And I just think we kind of swung culturally to that part of the kind of the spectrum where it's all like, okay, masculinity is toxic. We have to like get rid of it completely. It's like,
So I wanted to go ahead and give my opinion on this. This is all my opinion. If you don't agree with me, okay, cool. Like, comment down below. I don't really care. But let's get into this. So I just thought it was crazy, like his whole appearance on the podcast. And you have like two obviously right-wing people getting together to just like talk about like basically how they're correct and how like they're shaping society in like a positive way, and it just comes off as very egotistical and very like insecure, at least from my perspective. And obviously like anyone that goes on a podcast or goes on an interview type thing is going on there like to promote themselves and like kind of like to prove something or to show, what they're about kind of. And I think Mark Zuckerberg has had like such a bad like image in the media since 2003 when Facebook came out. I mean, he's always come off as very socially awkward, very robotic. The eyes are like dead. And so I believe like he did a lot of media training because like on the podcast, he's trying to come off. I mean, to me, it's like pretty obvious, and I think other people have commented on this too. But he's trying to come off as like cool and like relatable and very open and friendly and warm, and like you can tell it's all a persona. I'm not even gonna comment on how he's dressed. I'm not even gonna comment on that one. He's like wearing a gold chain and he has longer hair. Some people are saying he got a perm. I'm not sure. Like it looks like he had curly hair. It's just like it was always shaven, but like you can kind of tell his hair texture is curly. Anyways, though, and I think that he's doing this because honestly, like he's going to live forever. Like he has Genghis Khan syndrome where it's like not necessarily that he's having like all of these kids, but just the idea of like the metaverse and the fact that it will be here like generation after generation after generation, and his impact on social media is very much so long lasting. I mean, like I said, it's been here since 2003, and so what, we're in 2025. That's more than 2 decades already, and it's not going to end. And so like he needs to be perceived as like, cool and relatable to the next generation, even if it is just a small group of incels, because again, like he's going to live forever. He wants more people to join his platform. The more people that join his platform, the more money he makes. Already, since the elections, if you don't know, like I said this, like they're both right wings, but in case you don't realize, like he voted for Trump. And since the election, he has made $232 billion more dollars. Billion more dollars. And this is what he comes on a podcast to promote, like not the state of the environment, not like anything going on, not talking about wars, not talking about crises, but basically trying to boost himself up and prove that he is this like intelligent, relatable, smart, funny guy. It's insane to me. And like he keeps bringing up like how he was coding from a young age and how it's like incredible, and he comes off with like, again, like this big narcissistic sort of ego. And I'm not saying like he is a narcissist. I'm just saying like how he talks about himself is to puff himself up in a way that makes it seem like he's lacking something. And you know, I found out like in 2003, before Facebook was called Facebook, it was called Face Smash. And essentially like they would like grade the girls in Harvard. It was for Harvard only, Harvard students only. And they'd basically say like, oh, this girl is hot, oh, this girl is not hot. It was a hot or not website. And then it came out in the Harvard Crimson and he got interviewed. And it wasn't just him, by the way. It's just that I guess he bought out his friends or whatever, but it was him and a couple of his friends that developed the site. It wasn't him alone. And so anyways, and he's like, yeah, this is like child's play. I'll put up the quote. That's a direct quote. And it's just insane that he doesn't even acknowledge. Instead, he's like acknowledging his like intelligence instead of the fact that like, yeah, you know what? I was an idiot. I was acting like a 12-year-old. And when I made this site and whatever, he's just like boosting himself up. And this is in 2003 at 19 years old. And I believe he's like 37. I could be wrong. He's in his mid 30s. So yeah, at 19 he's acting like that, and in his mid 30s it doesn't seem like much has changed. You know, he's still trying to prove that he is this intelligent guy, and it's like, you know, I think people that are truly confident with their capabilities and what they can do would stop bringing up like, hey, I coded this thing. Hey, I coded this thing. Like, just shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm getting a little bit too passionate, a little bit too heated. But I just think it's really sad that he hasn't really seemed to develop much of a real personality. Like, it seems all very manufactured. Like, he is a very manufactured person. And even Joe pointed this out. There was like a point in the podcast where he's talking about archery and he's saying like how he likes to hunt, whatever, and Joe happens to hunt as well. And he's like, oh yeah, I do archery too. And then Joe's like asking him more in depth about it, and he kept saying like, I don't know. But before he was so like confident about it, and then finally he goes, okay, maybe I'm not as in depth, like I don't have as much depth as you do with this topic. And it's just like, he just keeps proving that he's not, after all of this success and, you know, having all of this power, he's still just not a real person. Like, I almost feel like he doesn't know who he is, or he's trying to figure out who he is, because he keeps mentioning during the podcast him doing like, oh my goodness, I'm sorry, him learning a fighting skill. I completely blanked out on which one, but yeah, and he's talking about that and how it made him feel more masculine. And how at one point he hurt himself, and like a little bitch, he went to his wife and was like, Priscilla, I should really stop being so mean, but he was like, Priscilla, do you think I should continue to do this? And, you know, of course she told him like, yeah, you know, it makes you like a better person, and it makes you, I guess it gives him like, again, that masculine energy that he thinks is lacking, even though at the end of the day, you're the one that should be bringing the energy to the table. It's like, you know, it brings up the question, why do you even feel that way? And yet you're claiming this masculine energy. It's like, do you even really have that masculine energy? I don't think so. You know, it's kind of like those guys that are like, I'm dominant. And it's like, oh my goodness, I feel my pussy turning into like a sandbox, you know? But anyways, back to the topic of me basically pointing out his fragility. And the reason that this is so important is because it perpetuates toxic masculinity. And again, like I mentioned previously, he wants like the next generation to like look up to him and continue to follow him. And that kind of is what's happening. Like, I think a lot of Joe Rogan's podcast listeners are teenagers to maybe like mid 30s. And of course, there's older people that listen to him, but in general, like, his viewers are very young and impressionable. And so they're looking at this guy who isn't even secure in himself as a role model. And I think that's probably the most tragic thing about it. And it's just, I don't know, it's like this guy, he wants to have power and he wants to have control. And like, maybe you could say that I'm reaching, but I personally don't think it's a reach. Like I said earlier, it kind of is this Genghis Khan syndrome of like, I will live on in my children. And so, in a way, like, because he has billions of people on Facebook and on Instagram. And so, in a way, he's able to live on through like that sort of like, those are his children, so to speak. And it's just, I don't know, it's really tragic. Like, I think it's super tragic. And then the fact that he's like so gung-ho for Trump. In the beginning, they talked about this a lot more because they brought up how the Biden administration during COVID basically like was trying to restrict what could be posted on Facebook and what could be said about COVID. They were saying like, hey, you're spreading false information. And excuse me, what he was saying was true. Like, it was just, sorry, I can't, I have really bad hiccups recently, like just nonstop hiccups. So excuse me. But he was saying like, you know, just, he was putting up memes and he was like telling people how the vaccine could have negative side effects and he wasn't monitoring those sorts of things. And apparently the Biden administration was like asking him to take it down, asking him to take down things about Hunter Biden, like that sort of thing. And like basically how the government no longer has control over the media and like how people receive their news. And that it's more so like these big tech moguls like, you know, Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk that have, you know, that really have the power. And it is true, they really do. And it's kind of like, damn, we're really headed towards an oligarchy, aren't we? And I also think that's like, of course, a big reason as to why they didn't vote towards like Biden. But then on the other hand, it's like Trump, I think, is probably really easy to control. I mean, he has the same issue. It's an ego issue where it's like, okay, as long as you stroke his ego, like he's easy to control. And so in that sense, I can see like clear as day why they voted for Trump. I mean, they basically bought America. And I can also understand why the working class like voted for Trump, because like at the end of the day, he was speaking to everyone. Like, I don't think people realize just how powerful hate is and how powerful it is to like divide people and like point the finger. It's like, it's the easiest mask to put on because everyone else is focused on this and they're like, oh, he's spreading the truth. He's spreading like knowledge. He's the only honest politician. But it's not necessary. I mean, like, he is being honest, but he's being honest because it makes him look good. He's not being honest about everything. And it's kind of like, he's stating the obvious, you know what I mean? It's like common knowledge, or it should be common knowledge. And so I don't know, it's just really sad that people don't see these like manipulation tactics. And I honestly can't believe it. But then again, there seems to be a major comprehension issue in America and like literacy issue. So that's probably a big part of it too. But and then to top it all off, the Democrats, I personally want a whole other, like, I want a whole other system. I don't like this. I don't like the Democrats. I don't like the Republicans. Okay. It's just not working. It's not working. And I know I'm getting like a little bit off topic, but it all ties together, I promise. And the Democrats, they appealed to like a tiny marginalized groups like the gays and like minorities, and basically like saying like, Trump is gonna take away your rights, so you need to vote for us. But do white middle-aged men care about that? Or even like working class middle-aged men care about that? No, they're just trying to they're just trying to feed their families and make their money. And it's like they totally missed the mark on like speaking to a broader range of people, because at the end of the day, like, men do seem to like care more about politics than women, or at least like, and I know that sounds sexist, but like they really get into it because for the longest time they were the only people that could vote. And like, you know, at the end of the day, they're gonna say like, oh, I'm thinking about this more logically. And so they miss the mark on appealing to everyone. And I can't believe it. It's like, I don't know, both sides are just idiots, you know what I mean? But it really makes me mad that people like Mark Zuckerberg, I can believe Elon Musk not caring, honestly, but Zuckerberg not being able to like speak out on like environmental issues that are going on, and like preserving the planet for his children. You know, he's talking about like how he's also teaching his girls to hunt and like where the food is coming from. And that's great and all, but you know, those animals aren't going to be there if the earth is dying. And it's just mind-boggling because he voted for someone that doesn't even believe in global warming. And then like when those hurricanes were going on, I'll try and find a video so I can put it in, but Trump like literally drew on the map because he was wrong. He was like, no, the hurricanes will totally miss all these states. And so he drew on the map to make it so that he was correct.
Well, technically they haven't called it yet, and quite frankly, this is my map to color in.
You know better.
Fine.
So anyways, to get back onto what I was saying about Mark Zuckerberg and his like tiny ego, little dick energy. And so it can't really be a surprise that he's saying something like, you know, the workplace is lacking masculine energy, and, you know, corporations are really leaning towards cutting that sort of thing off. And he kind of does acknowledge that, you know, before there was too much masculine energy, but I'm not really sure if he believes in that. I really do believe he went through like media training, because, you know, he's talking to a certain type of audience, but at the same time he's trying not to come off as like super offensive. And a lot of people wonder, like, you know, how is Priscilla staying with him? She's like also Harvard educated, a surgeon and philanthropist, all this stuff. But it's like, why wouldn't you stay with a billionaire? And before she moved from Massachusetts to, I believe, LA, to join, or it's probably San Francisco, I'm not entirely sure, but to join Mark, she had him sign this contract stating that he was going to spend at least 100 minutes with her, and it wasn't going to be, and this is allegedly because it's not like verified obviously, but and it wasn't going to be in the Facebook like headquarters, and it wasn't going to be at home. Like basically like he had to take her out on dates. And so she's very much like committed to this. Like if he signed that contract, they're not going to get a divorce. They're just not. Families like that, they're not going to divorce. I promise people that. And so when you think about all these things and like the need to be like liked, and then the need to boost himself up, and he's talking about like his intelligence and how, you know, coding came naturally to him, and how he's always been doing this since he was a kid, and yada, yada, yada. It's pretty easy to understand like why he would say something like that. And I think it's interesting because he brings up like how he didn't really realize this until he started going in more into the workplace and seeing it for himself. And for me, it's like, you know, and he's talking about how there needs to be this balance of femininity and masculinity. But I think both men and women can carry that balance within themselves. And it's even like one of the laws of attraction is that like what makes someone more likely to appeal to you is that energy of balance. And so I really can't wrap my head around the fact that he doesn't understand that or doesn't see that within himself. And then to bring up, like this lack of masculinity when 88% of CEOs in America are men, and then the same amount, 88.8%, so almost 89% of those CEOs are white. It's like, how could you possibly say that there's a lack of this like energy and this like need for it again when the majority is just that? There's no way that that's possible. And speaking from personal experience, like I've been fired because I reported sexual harassment. And so it's just like, I don't think that there's a lack in this culture. I don't think so. And like even now, Instagram's algorithms, like to go back to what I was saying about, Facebook starting off as Face Mash and like how proud he was of that. And like also just this culture of like dehumanizing women, which I think is like a mentality that doesn't leave men. Like you either believe that a woman can be your equal or at least is a person, or you're going to carry this idea that they're just sexual objects for the rest of your life. And he's definitely one of those people. So anyways, but yeah, even now, like Instagram's algorithm is like pushing like sexier, racier content. So it's like you're pushing this feminine content, this content that is like essentially draining men of their money and also dehumanizing men in just like in a weird dichotomy. And so it's like, how can you say that there's this lack and you want to see a change, but you're also like promoting it in a roundabout way? There's so many ironies and within everything that he says, and it's just incredible to listen to, because there's this man that's supposed to be like really smart and looked up to, and he's a billionaire, and he's just lacking so much. I mean, he lacks so much. I don't know, it's really shocking. And he's kind of also like building up, instead of fear mongering, I guess he's anger mongering, because like I'm sure there's a lot of like guys watching the podcast that are like, yeah, these women are emasculating us, when they're emasculating themselves. Because when a woman feels comfortable and safe with you, they're just gonna be very feminine. They're just not going to need, they're not going to lack. And so obviously that's a problem here, and that's kind of why more and more women are speaking out against this masculine energy. And so anyways, though, the angrier people are, the easier they are to become followers, because angry people often are looking for a savior when in reality they should be their own saviors. And so it's just continuing this never-ending cycle of people not being able to own up and people not being able to change and adapt to like making a better society and making a place where we are more understanding and overall more emotionally intelligent. It's tragic. It's really tragic that these men with like fragile egos continue to be in power, and that they are seeking out this power because they felt they're basically jaded. At the end of the day, that's what it is. Like they're jaded by like their experience with women, or not being able to like get the woman that they once wanted. And so now they're acting out on that and speaking out against it. And it's interesting because Mark also said that he didn't have this he didn't realize his masculine energy until he started hunting. And I'm not really sure why, because like your frontal lobe is developed at 25. So I feel like, at a certain age, you really should just like be in yourself. Like maybe I could understand it like bringing out something more primal within him, but it's not, I just like, where did this energy go? That's literally trying to figure out, where did it go? I don't know. It's something else. And you know, to bring up more about this, like when a woman does something, like when a woman is an artist, or like a woman is like a doctor, or developing like massive industries like similar to SpaceX, it's always like, this is a woman that did that, this is a woman. But when it's a man, they're just stating their name, like John has developed whatever. It's kind of like, you know, Bridget Mendler, the actress. A lot of younger people probably know her from like Disney, but she's actually really smart. She went to Harvard. She's developed like this massive space company. And every time like she's mentioned in the news for something new and awesome that she's come up with, it's always like actress Bridget Mendler, or like the pretty Bridget Mendler. It's never like Dr. Bridget Mendler. It's, I don't know, it says a lot. And so, you know, I keep going back to this thing where he's mentioning how men are being emasculated and men are kind of not being acknowledged in a good light. But in reality, society has always catered to men. And even just the fact that he's saying this and he can be taken seriously, whereas if a woman were to say like, hey, I don't feel comfortable in a certain workplace or in a certain workspace, or hey, you're making me feel uncomfortable right now, that woman is not taken seriously. Like, it's very rarely that a lady is taken seriously for something like that. Or oftentimes there's like this blame against women, like, you should have known he was a terrible person. How did you not recognize the signs? You know what I mean? It's so messed up. But let me know what your guys' opinions are on all of this. I thought it revealed a lot about Zuckerberg, and it just showed how weak our system is. I mean, truly, we have like just these pathetic men roaming around who haven't even found themselves yet, and they are dictating how society is, and they are kind of building most people's perceptions, because a lot of people are very moldable and very easily swayed, and it's something else. So goodbye for now. Watch my next video, like, comment, subscribe. Bye.